Hey folks, so with the new Gunslinger class out, the first thing we all want to do is play one. But the second thing we all want to do is check out how these guys would work with the other D&D classes if we multi-classed them. So on this episode of Dragons and Dice, I'm going over how I would or wouldn't multi-class these Gunslinger subclasses at the different tiers of play. Let's check them out. Welcome to Dragons and Dice. So, what I want to explore on this episode is if we should multi-class gunslingers. And if we do, what to multi-class them with, and when to do each of these levels of multi-classing so that when we play the game, it doesn't take forever to come online, and it's really fun for all the levels we aren't multi-classed. And I'm going to break this down for each tier of play, so we'll do like a 1 to 5 level campaign, a 6 to 10 campaign, 11 to 16, and then if we were to get up to 4th tier, that would be a 17 to 20 level campaign, and when and how we should multi-class if we were going to do that. And I want to do this for each of the subclasses. So this may be a little bit of a thick episode. Tier 1 is going to be really simple. There's really no point in multi-classing from level 1 to 5. You're going to give up too much because the level 5 features of the Gunslinger class are kind of the main thing that the whole class is built around. You get extra attack like martial classes do, which is really nice. But then you also get the gut shot ability that when you crit, you get to do these other extra things that a lot of the class is built around that gut shot ability. So if I'm playing tier 1 and I know our campaign's going to end at levels 5-ish, I'm just going to stay Gunslinger. If you had some weird requirement like the DM was forcing you to multi-class, you could do like a 1-level rogue dip so you still got your feet. Or you could do like a 2-level fighter dip so that you got action surge and then your level 3 subclass feature from Gunslinger. But unless that's a requirement, I really don't see any reason to multi-class in a tier 1 campaign. Okay, so let's check out tier 2. This is where the majority of a lot of D&D games play and where they end up capping out at. And so this is going to be like if we had 10 levels to work with. And this is also where we get into multi-classing being a pretty viable option, possibly better than just a straight class. So if we have 10 levels to work with, let's check out what each subclass and how I would do them. I would also like to say that these guys are brand new. I haven't got to play or run a game for a Gunslinger yet, and so these are all just my theories on what it looks like on the sheets. I'm sure I'm going to miss some cool builds. I'm okay with that. It's part of the joy of the game that there are so many ways to build interesting characters and find synergies that other people miss. It's one of the real joys of D&D. These are kind of going to be optimized for combat, and if I was going to just build for flavor, I may do a few things different for the character's story, but for the sake of whether or not you can build a really powerful Gunslinger multi-class character, I kind of had to optimize them for combat. So enough babbling, let's go and build some Gunslingers. And we'll just start off with the first subclass, and that's going to be the Deadeye. And their level 6 subclass feature is really nice. And then all Gunslingers at level 7 get an evasion feature so that if you pass a dex save, you take 0 damage and half if you fail. And that feature is really good. And so there's kind of 2 ways that if you're going to play a Deadeye at this tier, you could go with. You could go 7 and 3. And then you could also go 6 and 4. And I will say one of the interesting things about Gunslingers, it's not as crucial to max out your main stat for damage because using firearms, you don't get to add your ability modifier until you get to the level 11 feature of Gunslinger. So if you're playing in a tier 1 and tier 2, you can kind of put points in other places as long as your to hit is good enough to hit, because your dexterity is still going to affect your to hit with your firearm weapons, just not be added into the damage. So with that in mind, I think I would go 7 levels of Gunslinger, and I would go 3 levels of Ranger if I was going to play this at a 2nd tier campaign. And the way I would build this is I would just start off level 1 at Gunslinger. We get Dex and Charisma saves. And I like that better than the Rangers, which would give us the option of Strength and Dex. I like having that Charisma save better. Level 2, I would go Ranger 1, and that way we get Hunter's Mark, which is, I know, blasphemy that I'm going to build around Hunter's Mark, but I feel like with a sniper, it really plays in nicely with the flavor of it. And at level 3, we're going to go back to Gunslinger, and we will stay here until we hit level 6 and we get our extra attack and our gut shot ability. And then at level 7, we go back to Ranger for 7 and 8, and that'll get us our subclass. And there's one that just goes so nicely with our sniper abilities, and that's going to be Gloomstalker. We get dark vision here, and while in darkness, we have another type of way of giving ourselves the invisible condition if we are in the shadows. And that coupled with our level 6 Gunslinger feature, where if we're prone, we have the invisible condition, we're going to be really sneaky and hard to hit on the battlefield. And then levels 9 and 10, we are Gunslinger, and we get our level 6 feature of Concealed Position. That's the one that gives us the invisibility condition. And then we also get our level 7 Gunslinger ability of Evasion, which makes us even tankier if somebody is like, well, I don't know where he's at. I'm going to drop a fireball over there. There's a good chance if we pass that deck save, they still don't know where we are because we didn't take any damage. I like this multi-class. It gives us a handful of ranger spells. We get 2 fighting styles and 1 feat up to level 10. And if we're sniping, we're going to be doing 2d8 plus. If we took Great Weapon Masters, I feel like that's kind of like one of the really key feats to take as a gunslinger, because it lets you add your proficiency bonus into the damage if you're using heavy weapon or great weapons. And so we would do, 48 plus the 8 from Great Weapon Master, and then 2d6 from the Hunter's Marks. And then being a Gloomstalker, we would also get to add 2d6 from our Dreadful Strike, and we can stay hidden really well with our 2 different types of invisibility. I will say that if I was going to play a gunslinger in a world that didn't have firearms, and I was going to be using a longbow to make all of these abilities and features work, I might go with the 6-4 build so that you can max out your dexterity at level 10 and give up the evasion that way, because with a longbow you would be adding your dex to the attacks, and that would just up your damage a little more and kind of make up for the less damage die that you'd be doing for the 1d8 from a longbow versus the 2d6 from, or the 2d8 from your sniper rifle, or whichever firearm you decide to use. Just something to keep in mind. If you don't have the option of using firearms and you're going to be using a longbow, then maybe you want to put a little more onus on getting your dex stat maxed out earlier. Our next subclass is going to be the High Roller, and if I was playing the level 10 and playing a High Roller, I wouldn't multi-class out of it. The level 10 subclass feature is really awesome. It's called Risk Taker, and it lets you use your Maverick Spirit or your Skin of the Teeth for free without using a risk die, but you use a d6 instead. And the Maverick Spirit lets you add the roll onto one of the Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma saves. Skin of your Teeth allows you to add that die into your armor class for 1 hit. It's like a Poor Man's Shield or a parry ability, I guess, since it only lasts for 1 hit. It's more akin to a parry. And also, by not multi-classing, your risk die go up to 5d10 at level 10. I think it's really valuable to get the bump to your risk die and to have the 2 free abilities to just, anytime you need to use your reaction to pass a save or up your armor class, it's going to give you some real good survivability. I wouldn't multi-class out on a High Roller. Our next subclass is the Secret Operative, and so this one I would leave really quick, and as a matter of fact, if we were going to level 10, I wouldn't even start there. At level 1, I would go Rogue to get the extra expertise and all those rogue skills and abilities right off the rip, and then switch to Gunslinger after that. So level 1 Rogue, level 2 I would go Gunslinger, and I would just stay here until I got our level 3 subclass for the Secret Operative. And at level 5, we would go back and get Rogue level 2, and I would stay a Rogue all the way to 10 from there. So we would do 7 levels of Rogue and 3 levels of Gunslinger. This is basically going to let us be a special operative James Bondy feel. And the subclass I would want with this one to really make that feel spyish and secret operative is I would want to go Thief. And that way we could do our normal attack, our sneak attack damage, and then we could use our bonus action to use a magic item, and that would be kind of like the gadgets that Q had been making for us if we were playing as James Bond or whatever spy you like, whatever your flavor is going to be for your character. But I really like the feel of the Thief Rogue with the Secret Operative for the multi-class. And with this build, we get Uncanny Dodge and Evasion, which makes me feel better about that, not getting it from the Gunslinger. And we get Reliable Talent, which is very similar to the Fieldcraft ability we would have gotten from our level 6 subclass feature if we'd went Gunslinger farther up. And so I think that the rogue just gives you more versatility and plays a little more into the spy and special operative feeling than the special operative does. So our combat with this character would be we make one attack with our firearm, most likely a single pistol. I would probably take the dueling fighting style for this, a Walther PPK. We're going James Bond Phil. We'll do 2d6 there. And then we'll do 4d6 from our sneak attack damage. And then we could use our bonus action to use a magic item from being a thief. This build gives you one fighting style and one feat up to level 10, which is a little bit of Sad Panda, but you do get all the rogue utility and the special operative combined to make you into a very good infiltrator and spy, if that's the feel you want your character to be. Our next subclass is the Spellslinger, and this is another one that I wouldn't multi-class. The level 10 feature, Counter Mage, is so nuts. You ignore spells that are on the creature when you attack, and if you crit them, your gut shot causes them to be unable to cast spells or take the magic action until they use an action to remove the bullet from their belly. And if that wasn't enough, it gives them disadvantage on their concentration saving throw, which means you just crit and did massive damage, and now they have to make that save with disadvantage, so you're going to be like the ultimate mage slayer. And you also get an ability that if you fail a save against a magical effect, you can use your reaction and roll a d6 and add it to the save. And this takes reaction, but you still have the ability to use your Maverick Spirit if it involved intelligence, wisdom, or charisma on that save. So if you failed a wisdom save, you can add a d6 to it. And if you still failed, you could add another d10 to that from your wrist die. I mean, it's a crazy good ability. It is one of my favorite ones I've seen at any subclass in D&D. And for that reason, I don't see any point, if you know you're going to cap out around level 10, not to get this. Our next subclass is going to be the Trick Shot. And for this one, I would like to multi-class it with Fighter. With my Gunslinger, I would start off probably 5 levels of Gunslinger. And for the fighting style, I would take with this one, I feel like it lends itself to dual revolvers. So I would take the 2-weapon fighting. And this is going to have a nice feature to it that when we make that extra attack as a bonus action from 2-weapon fighting, we can add our attack mod to it, which normally with firearms you don't, but the way this reads, you will. So that'll be an extra like 4 damage off of our dex, or 5 if we get it maxed by level 10. And the way this would work is we'll make 3 shots each round. We'll make 2 attacks with our 2 revolvers, and we'll make a bonus action attack from 2-weapon fighting. And that'll be really nice as we get to reload the weapons we're holding as part of our Trick Shot subclass features at level 6. And then for the Fighter, if I had the option, I think the one that plays in the best with this for the 4 levels we're going to take would be Arcane Archer, if your DM will let you flavor it to be used with a revolver instead of a long or short bow. Because I feel like the Trick Shot and then the special Arcane Archer shots like Bursting Shot or Seeking Shot, it's very similar to you're bouncing bullets around walls and like you just can't miss. I think the flavor is really good on that. The other option, if your DM will not let you flavor an Arcane Archer with a Gunslinger to use a gun, is take Battlemaster, and you can get maneuvers from the Battlemaster thing that'll let you add in extra D8 and do special things with the shots. I really like the flavor of a disarming shot from a Battlemaster Gunslinger, and it's like you shot the guy's pistol out of his hand. It's just such a baller move, and I think they have some really good synergy with the maneuvers that go together there. Our combat for this guy, we would do 3 shots the first round, do a bursting shot, and we would get to add our dex to one of those, and then we could action surge and do 2 more shots, and we would do 12d6 plus 4 on the first round. And then the next round we would do 8d6 plus 4 as we wouldn't have the action surge. And then each round after that we would be out of Arcane Archer shots and out of action surges. We would do 6d6 each round. And if you're doing the Battlemaster, it would work out to be about the same damage. You would do an extra d8 instead of the extra 2d6. But you would also have an extra 2 uses because you get 4 superiority die at level 4 as opposed to only the 2 of the Arcane Archer shots. So the damage would be really comparable whichever way you went, and I think it'd be a really fun combo to play. And now for our last of the subclasses, the White Hat. And this is the one that I'm the most on the fence about. The level 10 feature is really nice, and I think I would probably stay the course and get the long arm of the law ability. It's really amazing resource free crowd control. It doesn't even have a save, and it just makes it where a creature that is large or smaller can't move unless it takes the disengage action. This is so overpowered if you're fighting melee monsters. You can just pick them off without them being able to move. It's like you shoot them, they take their turn to take the disengage action. You shoot them again. That's all they get to do. It's so nice because this is resource free. But if I wanted to be multi-classed, I think what I would do is do a big paladin dip. Rather, I would play a paladin with a white hat dip, I guess is what I'm saying. Because I would start off level 1 to get armor and saving throws from paladins, because who doesn't love wisdom and charisma saving throws? I think that's better than the gunslinger saves. And then I would go 3 levels of white hat to get our aura and lay down the law ability. And then I would go back to paladin until I hit level 10. So we would be a pally 7 and a gunslinger 3. And we'd have a really awesome feel here. We could like grab a blunderbuss or something that was good up close, pick up the new ballistic smite spell, and play this like it's the old sheriff that's gotten too old to use his revolvers. Now he's kind of switched over to his scatter gun. With this build, we would get 1 feat, but we would have 2 auras. We'd have our level 3 gunslinger aura that helps protect against fear, and then that awesome level 6 pally aura that's just one of the best abilities in the game. Our second subclass feature from whatever subclass we picked as paladin, and honestly I see some really good synergies with all 4 of the subclasses here. Just whatever flavor you wanted from the paladin subclasses. If you wanted to be the like avenging sheriff, you can take vengeance paladin. If you want to be like the deadly do-right, take oath of devotion or glory. Any of them work really well with this. And combat for us would be we'd move in, we'd do 2 shots with our scattergun or blunderbuss, whatever we're using. That would be 2d12 plus the 8 from taking Great Weapon Master as a feat. And then we would just throw on a ballistic smite if we needed to. We could divine smite if we wanted also, but I really like the flavor of, since we're using the gun, to go ahead and use the new smite that's out and use that ballistic smite. And then we've got all that awesome pally utility. We got heavy armor, we got, a big old shotgun on our shoulder, and we're doing a great job with our auras at protecting people, and it has a really good feel. Like the synergy goes really well together with the white hat and a paladin, I think. Okay, so that's if we went to a tier 2 game and capped out at level 10. But if we were going to play all the way up to level 16 and end at the top of tier 3, this would give us the option of having all the subclass features from Gunslinger, because they max out at 14, and then a couple extra levels to play with. So we could either do that and go straight class, or we might want to forego those capstones, get second and third subclass features from other classes. Let's just do it the same way we did last time, go through each one of them and how I would like to build them if I was going to multi-class a Gunslinger at level 16. So first up's the Deadeye, and while earlier I wasn't crazy about the level 10 subclass feature and skipped it out to go Ranger and get Hunter's Mark on the tier 2 build, I would want to get the level 14 capstone because it's awesome. So for this, I would build a 14 level Gunslinger and 2 levels of Fighter. And this is going to make some crazy synergy with her capstone. And the way I would do this, if I was playing it in game, I would go 5 levels of Gunslinger. Then I would do my 2 level Fighter dip. That would get us a second fighting style, or action surge, or second wind, all our fighter utility abilities, and get us 2 attacks as soon as possible. And then I would max out the rest of the levels at Gunslinger until we were 16. And with this build, that would give us 3 feats, 2 fighting styles. And the best part is that our level 14 Gunslinger subclass feature, Focus Shot, it allows us to forego a second attack when we take the attack action to get advantage on the first attack. And then to, if we hit with that attack, auto crit. But it doesn't have a stipulation on how many times we can do it a turn. It activates when we take the attack action. And so now, with the 2 level Fighter dip, we can Focus Shot attack with advantage twice. And if we hit, it's an auto crit. Because we will make that attack, make our first shot. If we hit, auto crit, and then we will action surge, take the attack action, forego the second attack of that. If we hit, auto crit again. So you can set up basically 2 auto crits in one round and have some really insane Nova damage. Also, let's not forget that this class comes with an Eagle Eye maneuver that we can use one of our wrist die, which are D10s at this point, to roll it and add it to a hit. Now we can only do that ability once per turn, but if we know we hit with the first one, we have that ability in our pocket for the second one, we can be putting out some massive Nova damage. And I just really like the synergy of that Deadeye's ability to auto crit when you hit with that focus shot, to be able to do that twice in round one. Plus, that's also going to activate, each time you crit, activates your gut shot ability, level 5 Gunslinger feature. And it's just really cool, like the synergy between action surge, double crits, gut shot ability. This is kind of one of those subclasses that if you know you're going this high, it may be the most fun one to play if you know you're going to get your capstone. Like some of the others have better low level abilities, but this capstone ability is really nuts. Anytime you can just auto crit, and having a couple levels to be able to get a action surge in on that, I think this would be one of the most fun to play at this tier 3 of combat. Our next subclass is the High Roller, and like the last class, I want the capstone here. It's called Risk Taker, and it doubles the dice we roll a second time on a crit. So when you crit, you roll double dice, and with this, you can gamble, do a straight D20 check, 10 or higher, and you get to roll 4 times the dice you would normally do on your attack. And if you roll a 9 or lower, it just turns it into a regular hit. One thing to note here, this is a D20 check. So if you were a halfling and you rolled a 1, you would get to re-roll it. And also, if you have the lucky feat, you could use that feat with this to really up your odds of, going critty bang bang on people here and just doing 4 times damage, which sounds awesome. Now, that 14 levels of Gunslinger is going to leave us 2 levels to play with. And there is another level 15 ability called Dire Gambit, so that you get a risk die when you roll initiative or when you crit. Now, it doesn't give you an extra risk die. You can't go above max, but if you're missing one, it's a pretty nice level 15 ability. So there's a couple ways you could multi-class this with your last couple levels. First, you could just stay straight all the way through, get that ability and a feat. The other option is you could do like the last class, do a 2-level fighter dip, and that would be okay. But the one that I think would make the most sense and play the most fun with this is start off with 1 level of rogue. You would get your 2 expertise, all those good rogue skills, switch straight to Gunslinger, 15 levels there. And that's going to give you sneak attack for 1d6, which I know, it's like, ooh, that's not that much. But that synergizes so well with this crit ability, because now when you crit, that sneak attack damage would be 4d6 just for that 1 level of rogue dip on top of 4 times your weapon die. And I think if I was going to multi-class this, that's what I would do. I would start rogue, get my expertise, extra skills, rogue saving throws, and then switch to Gunslinger at level 2. Next 15 levels there to cap out at 16. You get that awesome extra 1d6 that's really just there in your pocket to really bounce that quadruple critical damage off of. And I think it gives you some really nice utility having all those rogue skills from the start, and you're not giving up anything but 1 feat for it. Our next subclass is the Secret Agent. And I'm just going to say this is probably my least favorite of the subclasses. It doesn't have a single ability that I'm really crazy about. If I knew I was playing in a low combat, high role play campaign that took place mostly in cities and had tons of social interactions, I would consider playing one of these. But I think my build would be close to the one earlier. Start with a level of rogue, go 5 levels of Secret Agent Gunslinger to get extra attack, and then go back to rogue for 10 levels. And I think that would still go with the thief to be able to use magic abilities, or magic items as a bonus action, or then maybe go with assassin would also work well for the feel of I'm the hitman type operative, not the, infiltrator type operative. But with that build, it's really nice. You get your level 11 rogue features, and you get improved cunning strike. You get your level 9 subclass features from rogue. And at level 10 as rogue, we also get that extra feat, which is really nice. So with this build, we would get, 1 fighting style, 4 feats, and we would have 6d6 for our sneak attack damage. And then we'd have all the rogue utility. But it's really kind of like you're playing a rogue that took a gunslinger dip to get their level 3 feature. That just gives you the concealed shot, and then you get the awesome... The Gunslinger does have some really nice early features. Getting a fighting class that you can use with ranged weapons and getting the improved crit rate. All that stuff happens before level 3. And so it's really nice to make a dip into that. And it really gives rogues a lot more utility. But this is just like kind of my least favorite of these subclasses. This doesn't have anything that I'm crazy about. The next one's the Spellslinger. And so I was so excited when I saw a Gunslinger that was intelligence based, because I was like, oh man, here's something that we can multi-class a wizard into. But I don't think I would at this level, because you give up so much from the capstone. I think higher level spell slots wouldn't make up for what that capstone is going to give us. So if we were to go say 11 levels of Gunslinger and decide that we like the arcane more and went 5 levels of wizard, that would let us add our dex to our attack rolls from the 11 levels of Gunslinger. And then the wizard would also give us 2 4th level spells that we wouldn't have at this point from being a Gunslinger, that we could use to upcast. And that would be the couple extra spell slots that we got to play for. So our capstone feature, let's say we fired a chromatic orb and just went straight Gunslinger for it. We could do our weapon damage, let's say we're just using a magnum, and that's 2d8 plus our ability mod, plus we would get to roll one of our wrist die that's a d10 at this point, and then we could upcast chromatic orb for 5d8. And that's a lot of damage for that's 1/2 of an attack. We traded one of our 2 attacks out to do that ability. If we went wizard, we would get a 4th level spell, and we could upcast a chromatic orb as one of our attacks, and that would just be 6d8. And that dip only gets us, by going wizard, we only get 2 level 4 spell slots to come up with, and we only get level 3 wizard spell. We would also get all the other wizard goodies, and I might consider doing a wizard multi-class to have 5 levels of diviner, orbger, to give us more utility and survivability. But if I was just going to build this to be a damage-based guncaster, I think I would just go 16 levels straight down the thing, take that extra feat at 16, and get that risk die back from your level 15 feature when you roll initiative or when you crit. I just don't think there's really that much to be gained by hopping into wizard, giving up your capstone to grab up what you'll get from wizard, which would be your first level subclass features and then 2 extra level 4 spell slots. So I think this one, I would just stay the course and play 16 levels straight. Next subclass is the trick shot, and this one's no brainer for me. It's going to be 14 levels of Gunslinger to get the pin shot ability capstone. I think it's a great ability, and the level 10 maneuver is really good too. And then with those last 2 levels, I would do one of 2 things. I would either do the first level rogue dip for expertise and sneak attack to add up for a whole career, and then 15 levels of Gunslinger, or do 5 levels of Gunslinger and then do a 2 level fighter dip like we did on the Deadeye, and then go back to Gunslinger. That get us our action surge and second wind, and then we just finish out Gunslinger. I think the rogue dip is probably better for the steady damage over time, as you'll get to add that d6 on for your whole career and you get the extra expertise. I'd probably pick the 1 level rogue dip if I was playing this, although action surge is always nice for Nova capabilities and the versatility it gives you if you really need to hammer somebody down. But other than that, this seems like a really fun subclass. I would love to get to play one. Anytime you get to take a rogue level off the start for expertise, I feel like it's really good. It just makes the rest of your life as a character better, having expertise in a couple different things. Now for our last subclass, the White Hat. And if I knew I was going to get to play at least 14 levels, I would definitely want the capstone from this subclass. We get to improve our aura, and it goes up to 30 feet. We give out resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing now when we use our Lay Down the Law ability. And even better now, when we use our Reach for the Sky feature, creatures are stunned instead of just incapacitated, and that is so powerful because now we can hit the target without ending that stun condition. If they keep failing their saves, they're just stuck there. And we still have all that good CC ability from being able to shoot people and remove their speed. For that, I think I would just stay the course, take that level 15 feature, and then level 16 feet. I think I would play this one all the way through. I don't like the flavor of doing the 1 level rogue dip, since the White Hats are kind of like the lawman and the rogue doesn't make much sense. If I was really bent on making a multi-class to get a little more utility and some spells, I might do a 2 level paladin dip the kit goes really well together. 2 levels, you get Lay on Hands, you get Divine Smite, you get a couple Paladin spells. And if I was going to do that, I would probably start off Paladin level 1. That way we could have all our armor proficiencies that we wanted. And I really like Paladin. Wisdom and Charisma saves are great. And then I would take 5 levels of Gunslinger, get extra attack. At level 7, I would take my second Paladin level, and then just run it the rest of the way up to 16 in Gunslinger. But like I said, I think if I was playing it, I'd probably just stay 16 levels of Gunslinger, forego the Pally Dip. But they do synergize really nicely together in the feel of the characters. So what if you're going to play your campaign all the way to level 20? I personally would be really hard pressed to leave Gunslinger if I knew that we were going to get to cap out everything. The level 18 feature is really awesome. It gives us a special bonus action just for using our maneuvers, and then we can still use our normal bonus action for other stuffs, or possibly a second maneuver if it doesn't have a once per turn limitation on it. And the level 20 feature, the headshot feature, is basically power word kill with a bullet. When we crit, we get to just do powered word kill or 10d10 if they've got over 100 HP left. Also, by getting through level 17, we now crit on 17, 18, 19, and 20. That's a 20% crit range. And that ability with extra attack, it feels like we're going to get to use our level 20 capstone a lot. And if you're playing the Deadeye, you can 100% guarantee that you get to activate it. The only two that I might think about multi-classing would be the Special Agent and the Spellslinger. The Special Agent, it would be nice to get the level 18 ability so that our parting shot maneuver that took our bonus action to activate that extra fire, we would be using that as a maneuver bonus action. But I think if I was doing that, I would still multi-class that, do 1 level of Rogue, do 5 levels of Gunslinger to get extra attack, and then I would hop in and do Rogue from levels, that would put us up to level 6. I'd do Rogue from like 17 to 14. That would get us all our Rogue goodies. At level 15 and 16, I'd probably do like a 2-level fighter dip to get Action Surge. And then I would probably go back to Rogue from 17 to 20. That would get us our Epic Boon at level 19. And at level 20, we would get our last Rogue sub-feature. And so we would be 5 levels of Gunslinger, 2 levels of Fighter, and 13 levels of Rogue. That would be pretty fun to play. We'd have big sneak attack damage. We could Action Surge. We'd get this stuff from the Secret Agent subclass feature at level 3, and we get the ability to do all that using a gun and our fighting styles applying to it. The other one that I would think about multi-classing is the Spellslinger, and it would be really nice to go 14 levels of Gunslinger, Spellslinger, that's weird to say together, and then hop to Wizard to boost our spells and our slots. We would get our second Wizard subclass feature here, so because you get those at 3 and 6, and that would give us 3 level 4 spell slots to use instead of the 1 that we would get if we just went straight to level 20 with Spellslinger. And then we would also have 2 level 5 spell slots to upcast stuff with. We would have 1 level 4 spell, but we would have 2 level 5 spell slots for multi-classing. And so that one's kind of like 6 and 1, half a dozen in the other, the capstone and the crit abilities and all that from there. Or would you rather have the 2 extra level 4 and 2 extra level 5 spells to use each day as you played through? I feel like that one can kind of go either way. If you wanted to be more gunslingery, stay the course and go capstone at level 20. And if you wanted to have a little more magic and utility feel, you could go like Abjure and you could throw up shields on you and your fans. Or you could go Diviner and get, portent dice that you could add in, which would be really nice and useful and have some good synergy too. So those are the 2 that I would contemplate multi-classing on. The rest of the classes, those top end features of Gunslingers are some of the best in the game, I think. I think they're really nice. Well, folks, that's it for this episode of Dragons and Dice. I hope this helps if you're curious about how and when to multi-class these new Gunslingers. And thank you all so much for tuning in to listen. If you like what the show's doing, please tell a friend about us, leave a comment, a like, and a follow, as that always helps with exposure. And if you have other multi-class options that I've missed, hit me up in the comments. I'd love to hear them and see what all you all are building out in the world. And until next time, may your DMs be kind, may your D20s roll high. Bye.